everybody. How's it going? This is Ryan with Rigs of Death Metal. Today, my guest is Christian Donaldson of Cryptopsy, as well as a very prolific studio producer for all kinds of awesome bands, such as Beneath the Massacre, Despised Icon, so worked with Suffocation recently. Uh, Christian, how's it going, man?
I'm doing excellent. How are you?
Hanging in there, enjoying my day off.
Awesome.
Well, first and foremost, want to thank Will over at Season of Mist for arranging this. You guys just kind of recently jumped ship over to Season of Mist, correct?
Yes, we just jumped. Yeah, exactly. We just switched label recently. Honestly, we couldn't be happier. The label is awesome. It's the first time ever that we having like meetings with the label, like for our future plans, and and also like they're very very cool. Arranging some interviews like today and other stuff like that. I only have good things to say about them.
That's awesome. What what kind of motivated that switch? Because I mean,
But I don't know. I'm not sure if I can tell like all the details.
sure.
So there's a little kind of backstory that I can't really say. But if I can just say like the most important is the offer is better. And they care more about us. Basically, it's like the kind of thing like small fish in a bigger pond, or
Yeah,
which was the opposite. And I think that's really, for us, it's exactly what we needed. Like some people who cared, and they really believe in your band and where we can go to the next level as compared to some other bigger label who has like ginormous bands now. So you're just another number, if you know what I mean, which is fine too, because they kind of also help us very much for the latest album. But I think we just found a better home for us.
that makes sense. Um, so first off, what is because your Cryptopsy rig has kind of changed around a little bit. You primarily for the last, I don't know, probably better part of the last 8 years or so, right? Been playing Ibanez predominantly, if I remember right.
Yeah. I just re-signed recently, like the a new contract with them, and well, basically, I've been playing Ibanez as long as I can recall. When I first started my guitar journey, I own an Ibanez, and I just felt comfortable to play. It's just these are racing guitars, basically.
Sure. No, I've played Ibanez since I was 15, so I get it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm very comfortable, and so,
yeah. Even I have I have one custom guitar, and even that I heavily spec'd it out based off of how much I love just the Ibanez RG. So
yeah, it's a classic. It's a classic. I started learning with this. I just feel, I don't know, maybe my hand was molded to Ibanez or something. So,
right.
so
But I did a post, leading up to this, trying to take on any, fan questions or anything like that. And somebody brought up, you've played gorilla guitars in the past and kind of on and off. I thought I saw a thing not too long ago that you were kind of back on their artist roster and then back playing Ibanez. Is it like kind of a dual thing, or did you just
I mean,
settle it back in with Ibanez?
no, I mean, Costa is a really amazing person. The guy and the guitars are really, they're really well made. I just feel like it's hard to explain, man. I mean, I don't want to, I don't want to say anything bad about anybody at some point.
Sure.
Uh, I just felt like what I needed, and the like the response that Ibanez was giving was way faster, and I believe they have probably also more resources. So
Sure.
if there's anything, like for example on the last tour, I needed a guitar, and Tyler from Ibanez just hooked me up like that, and it was way easier for them to get me that guitar than for example like a smaller company
Mhm.
who will need to build one from scratch, and
Sure.
So I just feel sometimes it's a bit more convenient. Like if something happens, even though on the other side of the planet, they can make phone calls to Ibanez in Japan or anywhere, and it could just
Right.
be very, very helpful, if you know what I mean.
That makes total sense. For a musician touring the globe, it seems like it's pretty imperative to have that sort of customer support anywhere that you're at, because
Yeah, I
it's
think it happened. The same thing happened with my friend JF from Cataclysm. I think they lost their gear, and since they're with ESP, they've been able to like get him a guitar for the show. So the kind of stuff like that we kind of need to rely on a on good can I say some but a good as I said resources and help from a bigger company. Yeah.
right. Makes sense. So beyond that, uh, I know that you were a Kemper guy for a while. Are you still playing the Kempers? Have you switched to something else?
Yeah. Still playing the camper. Actually, I love camper, but I switched to the player now. It's
Okay.
just, it's funny. I just have my rig now. It's like this my live rig. It's
Nice.
this thing is fantastic. I mean, I mean, every any other anything like XFX or like Quad Cortex or any of those like amp sims, they're all amazing. I started with this and I made so many profiles through the years with my with my amps
Sure.
that I just don't want to start over. So now that I have like those profiles, I just keep on with Kemper. And I just like to, I don't know, for some reason, it just kind of, the sound is not as accurate as a quad cortex when you capture it, but I kind of like it better. It's just a little fatter for some reason.
You're not the only person I've heard say that. Um, and I've got a Kemper power rack sitting right in front of me. So like I'm right there with you. I don't want to start. I've got so much stuff on here. I don't want to start over. Um, and I'm buddies with a guy who runs a profile company called Amp Guru, and shameless plug, I guess. But he's hooked me up with so many, and he does quad cortex and Tonex and all this stuff. And he even says the quad cortex is maybe a little bit tighter sounding, a little bit more spot on, where the Kemper kind of adds like this kind of warm, fuzzy low end kind of thing to it.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, I just really don't want to start over. And the Kemper is so much easier to just drop stuff in too. I've heard, because I
it's
guess
very, very user friendly.
yeah, which I guess the QC it's all like a cloud sharing system, and you got to do stuff one at a time, and I don't know.
Yeah, and as I said, like I said before, I have like all my amps from my studio. They're all in there too. So, it
That's
feels
cool.
like home. I would have to start over, and there's a bunch of amps that I profile in there that I could not have again. For example, I profile. I don't know if you know that amp, a DAR, and
Yeah,
I had
yeah,
the chance. We had a DAR at some point, and I profiled it, and there's no way I could get that amp again. So if I would get a
right,
cortex, if I get a quad cortex, that would lose that profile or that sound. So I'm like, nah, that would be a shame.
sure. I think I had a buddy send me a couple DAR profiles too, and I forgot about it till you said that just now. But so of everything in your like current collection in your studio, what amp would you say probably gets the most time on records?
Oh my god. I'm gonna be so original by saying 5150. I'm sorry about that, But I mean, at the studio, I have Messas, 6505, 5150s. My Soldano, I kind of like it very much too. The SLO 100,
Hmm.
that's a killer amp too. I like it very much. But there's a bunch of amps, but for all of those amps, I feel like sadly the 5150 wins pretty often. I feel it's like ketchup. It fits with like almost everything, except if
Sure.
someone wants to have like a specific tone. Someone wants to have the Mesa tone. You're not going to be able to get it with the 5150, but most of the time it works so well, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, and the 5150 has been talked about on this show quite a bit too. It's probably a little bit closer to like mix ready than, some other amps like a Mesa rectifier when it's bone stock or whatever.
And
Um, and I think at this point a lot of guys are like their ears are a little bit conditioned to it. So I think that kind of
yeah,
plays a little bit of a part. But
that could be it, you know. But there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with whatever. You could try to experiment with everything. I remember having a what's it called, a GMP1 from Marshall before,
mhm.
and that was pretty good too. You know, it was very mid. Or I have a Triaxis from Mesa, which is really it's very interesting, but it doesn't do what I want now. It seems a bit, it's a bit
Yeah,
older amp, so it's not as modern as 5150. But you can always boost it, obviously, if you want with anything else. But sometimes if you want to try some stuff, or when I do like 4 guitar tracks, I kind of probably will aim with 5150 for like the main ones, and just try anything else different for track 3, 4.
gotcha. That's interesting. That's something I'm trying to learn is quad tracking. I haven't it's sometimes it's more successful than others. Um, so you tend to do two tracks the same and of the same amp, and then the other two, you try to pick just something characteristically pretty different.
Yeah, or what I think could fit, or just try out stuff. And sometimes you're trying and it's not working. Like I think, like, if you were talking about Beneath the Massacre earlier, I know like the 5150 are the main two, but I believe I have 2 tracks of Fireballs on that from Angle, and it just kind of fill in some gaps, and the mids were really cool in that Fireball,
Hmm.
and it kind of worked very well. But and also, like, amps are really cool. Don't get me wrong, but if you want to have like different tones, like, we have to start talking about cabs. That's way more important.
Right. Is there a specific cab that you tend to gravitate towards? I think I might have a guess at which one it might be.
I guess let's just make it kind of like, and I'm gonna be so original again. The Mesa Oversize is my favorite cab. With vintage
Sure.
30. But it's so weird because I tend to see like amps. For me, amps sounds like the way I visualize it, like an amp would be the size of your sand. Like, for
Okay.
example, like if Angle is very tiny sand, as if you say from Mesa, they're bigger rocks, basically.
Hmm.
And and the cab itself will just be the EQ and the tone of your amp.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I feel like over the last couple of years, one of the bigger internet buzzes has been people finally catching on that speaker cabinets make a huge difference. And
It's massive. And also like mic and mic placement, that's like the most important thing.
yeah, um, I think over the past year, I've kind of went down a rabbit hole of trying out just tons and tons of different IRs, with recording and it does. Some guys take it to an extreme and say, oh, like they try to make it sound like almost nothing else matters besides the cab and mic, which I think that's a little far,
Yeah.
but it certainly does make the changes a lot less drastic if you have the same cab going through like especially digitally, using like Kemper profiles where everything's at the click of a button and you can mix and match in an instant. You can definitely tell where the different like the heavy differences lie for sure.
Yeah, but everything matters, like
Sure.
everything. I'm not like pro Glenn Fricker on that. I know who says like nothing matters almost, but for me, everything can make a difference. Even like the pick will make a difference. Obviously the gauge strings you're using, and everything. So And there's like so many combinations of that you can do these days. It's as you said, you can easily get lost, man.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, one of the things I've noticed stayed pretty consistent with your rig um, is the use of EMG pickups, and I know that's kind of been a staple for Cryptopsy pretty much since the beginning. Is it just standard combo 81, 85? Or have you
It
experimented
was
with different models?
it was always 81, 85. Like as long as I remember, even like John was using his Strat, and he had like 81s instead of on the bridge pickup,
Hmm.
and I and it was always like that. But recently, I kind of switched, and I just did the opposite. I did 85 on the bridge and 81 on the neck, and I really liked it. I'm very surprised. I feel like it's warmer, it's fatter, and I was very surprised. And I because like I feel like the 81 is really in your face, maybe very mid, like the mids are really pushed,
Yeah.
it's aggressive. And I find like you have that with the 85, but it's a little fatter, and I was pleasantly surprised.
I've always heard that. I don't know why I've never got around to experimenting with the 85 in the bridge or whatever. Uh it's definitely gonna have to be on my to-do list.
It's great. The first one I heard like, doing that was Adam D from Kill Switch Engage. I think that's
Yeah,
the first time I've heard about this, and I just gave it a shot like recently, and I was like, oh my god, it's pretty good.
killer. You ever experimented with any of like the X series or the 57 or any of like basically all their other models, I think try to add more dynamics and less compression, with the 81 being the far end of the spectrum, just compressed all the hell. Uh, Personally, I like the compression you get from them. And I even have like passive pickups that I helped a guy, design where
Yeah,
they're passive, but they have the compression and feel of like an 81. Um,
that's
is
really
that,
cool.
huh?
Me too. I really like that, compression, and I like the mid push. Like
Exactly.
it's just mean. But
And especially with as busy and intricate as a lot of Cryptopsy's music can be, I'm sure having like the consistency and dynamics really actually, helps the playing, I'm sure, right?
I think so. Yeah, I used to before EMGs. I was playing with the X2N from
Hmm.
Dimarzi, and I like them too because the output is ridiculous. There's
Yeah.
so much output on that pickup, but it's good. But it was a bit too bassy and too muddy, so you had to EQ your amp differently. But
Mm.
as soon as I switched for EMG, I just thought like, yeah, that's it. This is exactly what I want. It's just
Yeah.
a really gnarly push mids.
Kind of has like this glassy sort of high end to it too that I really like. That,
Yeah, yeah, something like
yeah,
that. But if you have the chance, check it out for 85 on the bridge. It's interesting.
I need to. I need to. Um, I think what do I got currently? I know I've got one guitar with the headset, and then I've got another one with an 81X. I think that's all I got at the moment. I have to
Yeah.
go. But let me see. So somebody else was asking about your Kemper, and obviously you've made a bunch of profiles. Do you have any kind of tips for making your profiles? Are you just kind of capturing like mic, cab, amp combinations that you come up with in the studio, or are you ever doing any DI captures or?
I never had a luck with DI captures, but I mean, actually, I never tried it. But you need to have a load box, I believe. I'm not
Yeah.
exactly sure how that works, but I always capture like the full rig because most of the time when I'm producing an album, I just have a tone day or a couple of days that I just looking for tones with my amps and this is when I make my profiles.
Hmm.
So every albums that I produce, I have a profile for it. So I'd never try to capture just the amp I could try because I could probably load IRs as you said, but I guess I'm old school or I'm just old, and I just like to have like the tone with everything in it, you know.
Sure.
Because if I don't like the cab, I have probably the luxury that I can try another cab. So,
Right.
but it's not as easy because you have to move the mic, you have to try different things. It's but yeah, I forgot the question. I don't know where I was going.
Oh, just like if there were any general tips for, making profiles, which,
The mic placement is crucial. That's really really crucial. If you're going that route with the full cab and everything, just like take some time to have the right like mic placement and the choice of cab. I know a lot of people are using 57, which is pretty like standard as well. If you can try different things too, like it doesn't hurt to try. Like I recently started using my Unidyne 546,
Mhm.
and I think it's killer. Or even like an SM7B on a cab is really good. Just trying
Interesting.
out some stuff, and you can really get some very very cool combinations.
So kind of just approach it like as if you were trying to nail a really awesome album tone, basically.
Exactly, and I mean the cab will be like the biggest change, the biggest the meat and potato of your tone. So just choose a good cab. Though if you try to get something killer with I don't know like like an old crate and like cabinet, it might not work. So
Yeah.
but it
Not
could
even the
work. You never know. It depends on the style of the music.
It's like not even the blue voodoo cab.
Well, a Line 6 Spider, and it might be a little tough too.
Yeah. I man, I don't it's weird. Well, I guess it also depends on the style of music, but I have heard some Line 6 amps sound pretty cool. Granted, it was with like Mortician
Oh,
or like Devourment, like
awesome.
bands going for that real sludgy wall of sound kind of thing, but
If I'm not mistaken, I believe like one of Meshuggah album was a Line 6 as well.
yeah. Well,
Nothing was like not a
Flex
pod,
Tone.
not a pod, but something like that, like a
Yeah.
pod or something.
Huh. I they've I know live they were using the flex tone heads for a while, which is basically the pod and like a solid state head.
Okay.
And then it wouldn't surprise me at all for them to have used a pod on some recordings and stuff.
Yeah, and
Uh
it works. I mean, the guys are like they're like phenomenal players. So I'm sure they could sound good with anything.
yeah, exactly. Um let me see. Moving right along here. Going into well, you know what? I do have one more kind of gear related question. So obviously, we had John Pryor in the band. Um, First off, what kind of is it just sort of the natural progression of things and what was like the easier choice at the time to go from two guitar players to one?
But the,
Mm.
the main reason why it happened, it was like an accident. Well, John like left the band. He was just like I believe tired of touring, and
Mm-hmm.
so we replaced him by like the old guitar player we had before he came back. And shit happened. Like the day before we're going on tour, he just got caught by the cops and he just went to jail basically. So we
Mm.
just so we couldn't cancel the tour. So I had to rethink the songs in my head while no, I don't want to say driving, but we were flying over to Europe. So in my head, the whole flight, I was like, my God, when am I going to play this and what's going to happen? So, and in the end, the tour went really good. So we just like thought of, and then the chemistry within our four people right now, it was amazing on that tour. So we just didn't want it to mess it up, by bringing someone else and just
Yeah.
change something. And And now, like, of course, like some stuff was missing because it's only one guitar instead of two. So right now, this is why we're running our tracks, which is actually all the harmonies that I'm supposed to play. They will play through the PA, you know. So it's like
Yeah.
there's two guitar playing, and when I have a solo, the backing track of the rhythm is there too. So technically now with technology, it's all everything you need to hear from those two will be there, you know. So,
Right. Um, is there is it just kind of easier to run backing tracks for those versus some kind of digital like harmonizer effect, something like that for your playing or
oh, it's right. Yeah, it's way easier with tracks because especially with the newest albums, some parts like have seven guitars at once. You know,
gotcha.
so you do this. You know,
Sure. Makes sense. With that, are you guys all in ears with a click track?
now we're all in your click track now, so it makes things look way easier. You know,
Sure.
it's quite recent though, because we were playing it old school for a while, but
Hmm.
now I don't know. We just decided to go that route, and everybody really fell in love with this, and it's just way easier. But when something is goes wrong, it goes really wrong. You know, that's technology.
Always.
I can't remember like the other day, like we have no, we have I have a pedal to start and stop the samples. You know,
Hmm.
it's like most of the time next to my guitar rig, and some dudes just came on stage because they wanted to stage dive and then poof, hit that. No more click, nothing. So like, what's going
Oh
on? Like,
man,
you can't hear anything. You're like alone in the world. It's crazy.
that's rough. That's see, that's another reason why having like a quad cortex or whatever out on the stage on your pedal board would make me nervous
Yeah, it is. It's what I said. When it goes wrong, it can go incredibly wrong.
for sure. Um, I'll I'll just throw a quick anecdote out there real quick. I remember I was playing like a really packed show. It was another band's CD release party, so there was a ton of people there. And you know, I think I had, let me see, the battery was dead in my guitar because I had EMGs.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a backup. My other guitar player had a backup. So I put on his guitar and I think it's all in tune. What I didn't realize was the tuner for the G string was really jacked up. Like you could just sit there and spin it.
Okay. Shit.
So I had it tuned like an octave down from what it was supposed to be because I was using a pedal tuner and I was just so that came into play later on. But my amp coincidentally, the tubes were dying in it. So I just had the volume cut out after like one song. So I had to borrow an amp. And then when we try to just play out like our final song, it ends on like us doing some guitar harmonies, which I needed half of it's on the G string and it's like an octave down. So it just sounds so stupid. And we all just kind of everybody just kind of looks at me like, what in the fuck are you doing?
Oh Jesus! Amazing gig, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think up to that point, it might have been our biggest crowd we had played to. So it was just like my face was so just burning. I was so embarrassed.
Oh my God! Fuck! I feel you, man. Shit.
But yeah, so I get it. When it rains, it pours for
Oh yeah,
sure.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so kind of going back into obviously you weren't there from the inception of the band or anything. Um, but obviously you have to go and play older songs that you didn't write, that albums that you weren't part of. When it comes to playing those songs live, do you just kind of stick with the same tone for the whole live set? Do you just kind of acclimate it to whatever your tone and playing is now, or do you have like different profiles to try to make it sound a little bit like the older albums, like switch to a Mesa thing or anything
It's
like
funny.
that?
It's funny. I never thought of this. That could be interesting because I think Metallica did that on the last tour. That's why they had different drums, so different drum sets, and when we're tuned more for the
Huh.
old stuff, and some amps. I believe I think they're on Axe Effects themselves.
Yeah.
And I think like also some when you were playing stuff from Ride the Lightning, you can hear their tone ish, So
Hmm.
that it could be a very interesting thing to do. It would be a like total nightmare for a sound guy. Sorry, James,
True. True.
but I never thought of this. But I mean, it's not something that it could be very interesting.
I think it'd be pretty cool. I know a lot of people are very curious about like the none so vile tones, which
I just it's so funny that you mentioned this because we found like the tapes not so long ago,
yeah.
and I just run them through Pro Tools. I just like I run them everything into computer. So I was just listening to those tones like recently, and I was thinking maybe I should remix them though. But I know it was Metal Zone with GCM 800, I believe, or 900 Metal Zone
Okay.
to it. And the other one was like a Mesa, I believe Triaxis with a Mesa Boogie cab, not like Mesa Engineering. So
Okay.
like two guitar tracks to the left were like Metal Zone with the GCM 800 or 900, I think, and the
Hmm.
other one was like the Triaxis with Mesa Boogie. Well, I believe also it was boosted with something like an overdrive or super overdrive from Bus, so you can hear like the gnarliness of the Metal Zone.
That is very what a unique combination.
It was very strange, and you can hear it like left and right as two different tones.
Hmm. Is that wow. I would never would have guessed that, especially with like the tri-axis. Like I know John eventually was playing like rectifiers and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. He switched to rectifiers, and it was a modified one too. But
Okay.
the funny thing is, I asked him, "What did you mod it in it?" He told me, "I don't know." And the guy who modded it is dead, so we'll never know.
You know, I used to have a like one of the two channel dual rectifiers and I had it like for like 10 years or something. Um the buddy I bought it off of always said that it was modded somehow by like Voodoo amps or something and but there's no badge or sticker on there. There's nothing that I can visually tell, just that would indicate that it has been modded and he wasn't sure. And I
Okay.
talked to the guy that supposedly had it modded, and he didn't remember. It's like okay, well,
Yeah, but I'm 100% sure like his amp was modded because there was a weird knob that they put in the back, and I believe it was either playing with the bias or it was strange. Maybe it could have been like some kind of tube screamer that he put in the amp or something like that. It was
huh,
something like like some boost or something interesting. This is what we
maybe
use on the self title. It's exactly that. It's the his dual rectifier and that was modded.
that would be interesting because where rectifiers are kind of built to have like a fixed bias, like factory, having some kind of like bypassing that and having it adjustable because like they're also biased super cold naturally. Um, which helps with tube life and all that. But yeah, that would be kind of cool to be able to kind of, crank it up a little bit, get it running a bit hotter.
I'm not exactly sure what it was, and I didn't
Sure.
want to open it. And I'm not a tech myself, so I can't tell.
Yeah.
But it sounded pretty good.
Interesting. Okay. That will I feel like that'll satiate a lot of like the old heads.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that's what he used on, and then it passes as well. So
uh Redirecting back to your gear. We were obviously talking about like 5150 Mesa Cab 57 for your live profiles and your recording tone for Cryptopsy. Are you running any kind of overdrive in front of that 5150? Is it like baked in to the profile?
no, no, this is something I don't like to do because I have the feeling that the camper doesn't reproduce like those like um, pedals that well. I find there's something weird with it. So I always find the tone with the pedal, then
Hmm.
I take it off. And sometimes when I record, if I feel like it, I can use the pedal in front of the amp
Hmm.
again, or I do like the pedal in the camper. There's some really good boosters in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like the camper drive, it's great.
Hmm.
Or even like the treble boosts. If you want to have something more gent, it's perfect.
Okay, I haven't messed with that one too much.
And
Uh,
if I'm not mistaken, there's also like a emulation of a Metal Zone or something like that.
I think so. And I think there's
So
like a rat too. I like that one.
as well, yeah. But you can just sometimes just put two or three and just play with the mix knob. Just add
Hmm.
a little bit of dirtiness, and it's very interesting. And that's the downside. Sorry, that's the one of the weak point of the players. Like you have less stump that you can use. I think there's like
Right.
two times less, so that's a bit annoying. But
Oh, like you have like less drives and stuff too?
yeah, there's less choice of drive and there's less slot to put them, so that's a bit annoying. Yeah.
Damn. Okay. I had briefly contemplated, going switching from the full big power rack down to the player, just to free up some cash or something, but I didn't realize it was that like I knew it had less blocks to where you could have like stuff in at a time, and I was fine with that. But I didn't realize it cut down on a lot of your options too.
Yeah, so that I mean, I might speaking through my whatever. I don't even know what the expression is in English, but I might saying bullshit here. But I have the feeling that they might give some more with next updates or something.
Hmm, that'd be cool.
That's what they kind of do. They're always updating their stuff. And
Um, how do you run the player live? Are you running it into a power amp or are you going direct?
we're going direct. It's going straight into our. We have our in-ear console. Like it's
Hmm.
fuck, what is it? PreSonus Studio Rack 24, I believe.
Oh,
And
sick.
so basically, we have like a splitter that it's going in the splitter, so the FOH can take it, and the splitter goes into our console, and through that
Okay.
console, it's going through our receiver, our
Hmm.
sender, sorry, and then through our in-ears.
Gotcha. Um, it's just like a single XLR out, correct?
Yes, but the two uh, one core, they are TRS and they're balanced, like the output of it,
Hmm.
and these are left and right, and this is what I'm using. So
Okay.
they're balanced. So I'm using like TRS into and into like XLR, so you can have like anyway two outputs.
Gotcha. Okay. Somebody else I had talked to that they were real into like I think um you know the band Crockmitten by chance?
I, yeah, I've heard the name. Yeah.
He actually is like running like two Tonex pedals
Okay.
because he likes to record like one guitar in stereo. And like that was one hang up he had with the Kemper players. It didn't have two XLRs, but might have to chat with him and let him know, hey,
Yeah,
you can do this.
I'm telling you, like the TRS, they are balanced, so you can use a wire that is like straight for like quarter, like balance quarter to XLR, and you're good.
Okay, that's sick. There there's always one issue that I had with the Kemper since I bought it because I switched from the Helix to Kemper a few years ago. There's only one like kind of feature thing that I really miss from the Helix, and that's being able to do multiple signal paths.
Oh yeah. I think you can do that with the Axe effects as well and quad
Yeah.
core. Yeah, well, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Um, I did find like I only missed it really for bass. Like I'm not so big on dual amping and all that stuff for recording single guitar tracks. Like I'll record multiple tracks if I want to blend stuff, or run an IR loader or whatever. But I did miss it for bass until I eventually kind of found a workaround to where I can run a DI off the back of the Kemper plus an XLR for like whatever, amp profile for bass that I wanted and have my two tracks that way.
Man, no, I totally get you, man. This is why I believe for bass, like our bass player, he runs a quad cortex, and I think that makes way more sense.
Yeah, it's a lot more straightforward for sure.
Uh,
Um, it's like like bass with the Kemper's fine if all you want is like a main tone and then also a DI. It's great. If you're wanting two separate process things with then you
yeah,
can't.
yeah, like this is what he does. He kind of compresses his lows, with a crossover, so only
Yeah,
lows, and then you can have like the gnarly treble that is a bit more less compressed with more alive, and
sure.
so yeah, you're right about this. But anyway, I still like it.
Which I mean, he has a absolutely killer bass tone. Um, Switching kind of gears over to studio work. I was kind of just skimming through some of your like recent productions on your website that were up and saw the most recent. I actually didn't know that you had done that last suffocation one.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that was fun.
so that's awesome. I have a fe I have a strong feeling I'm already gonna know the answer, but what was like kind of the main guitar tone for that album? Is it
Uh,
kind of the same formula or
Fuck, I forgot. Like I forgot, but I know two of the tracks, and I don't know if it's the main one. Is the one that he provided. So because it sounded very suffocation,
gotcha?
and if I'm not mistaken, he's using 6505 himself,
Hmm.
like Terrence,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think he's using like what's that company? That cab company? Fuck, forgot the name. It's
Um,
gonna come back to me. Like they're
Vader?
exactly Vader.
Oh,
I
okay.
think, I'm not sure if he's still using that, but I believe that's what he was using. So it could be like 6505 plus Vader with a his guitar wise. He's a BC Rish, I believe. Or
Yeah, I mean, they other than like in the 90s when they used those Ampegs, they've been pretty tried and true with like just different PV models and run the BC Rich. I've seen Terrence live playing with some different things, and he's got like some custom Warlock I've seen a few times, but he
yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, was I really wanted to get like that pierce from within kind of tone, but I believe it was Ampeg back then, if I'm not mistaken. It was like Ampeg for guitars.
yeah, I think they used the VH140C. There's also a SS150. Somebody will probably harpoon me in the comments for messing that name up, but there was like they did two different solid state heads and then a tube head or a tube hybrid maybe. Um, but the VH140C is the real famous one that a bunch of companies have like cloned it now,
Okay.
both as like pedals and full blown amps. Um, but yeah, those things are they're kind of like one of the staples for 90s death metal tone at this point, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, I really wanted to try something like that to recreate as close as possible, like Pearson Within.
Hmm.
But in the end, I just end up using what he provided because I thought like it really does sound Suffo for some reason because this is what he
Sure.
wanted. So I know like I believe the main ones are his, and the other two I'm not exactly sure because sometimes I just go through some profiles and I'm like, oh, this sounds pretty good, and I'm not sure exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But it's one of my thousands of profiles I made throughout the year. But the main one is like I'm fairly sure that's what he gave me.
Sure. Um, what is what's kind of your general approach when going into a new studio project? Is it like how do you prepare? Like do you just kind of try to do some homework and you're listening to the back catalog for the band, or is it a lot of in-depth discussion of what they're trying to accomplish, bit of both? Like
It's such a case by case from every band.
Hmm.
There's like there's this weird trend these days that I'm not a big fan of. But for the band is giving you MIDI tracks, MIDI drums, and DI tracks, and he tells you do whatever you want. I'm like, it's cool that I have the choice, but I have the feeling it lacks a bit identity. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Basically it could be anything. I could use any drum sound in the world and every
Hmm.
amp in the world. So I feel like the spectrum is so huge that it just you kind of don't know where you're aiming at some point. So yeah, you
Yeah.
just look at what they want, what their old like back catalog. If it's like a band who wants to sound like very deathcore, you're not going to use so you're not going to scoop the guitar like I would normally in a death metal band. but
Right.
but I like it when the guys are giving me um like a good idea of what they want. For example, here's my tone, my guitar tone. Use it. I would like you to use it. If it doesn't fit, you can reamp it. But I mean, if it fits, like it kind of tells me like okay, the band have a vision, and that's important too. But there's some bands that are, you know, when I produce a band instead of just mixing a band, when I produce a band, that's different because we just try out. Like for example, we take a full day of just trying every guitars that we can every amp that we can just to make sure that this is the tone that will fit exactly what we want. Even with
Sure.
the drums, the same thing. We can try like 5 6 different snares and different sets of cymbals to make sure that this okay, your songs are way faster, so we're not going to go like a very low tune snare. It might be a bit weird, so just let's just tighten it up.
Right.
And also there's a preference thing too. For example, I know Flo likes the snare cranked as fuck. So I'm not gonna force him to go low. That's his tone. That's what he likes.
Right. Right. Which, my God, what an incredible drummer Flo is.
Yeah, he's got a couple skills. I got a chops or two.
Um, oh, you know what? That just reminded me. Didn't you work on the Arise from Worms EP that Flo was on with Sonny?
Yeah, yeah. I finished something an album recently too, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um, I've had Sonny on the show before too. Awesome dude. I still keep in touch with him. I was a huge fan of that EP
right.
and wore it out. That thing was killer. I I can't remember what Sonny told me, if anything. Was that album reamped at all, or?
No, 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 no. It's so weird. Like this guy is. It was very easy because for his words were "don't do nothing." So I'm like, all right.
You
So
know, Sonny's pretty much a perfectionist from what I gather, so I could kind of see that.
yeah, it was like I could EQ that a bit. It's like, nope. All right, job done.
So what were you mainly doing on the album? Just kind of mastering it, or?
No, I recorded the drums. So
Okay,
record drums, produced the drums, and after that, he just sent me all the tracks, and I mixed and mastered. But I mean, for his guitar, I didn't do anything, as I said, because he didn't allow me to.
got
But for the
gotcha.
rest, for the rest, I made a normal mix. Like the way I would mix the drums and the way I would mix vocals. But
Sure. What about what about for, and this could apply to any project that does this, when you have some of those other elements besides the typical metal band instruments, when you have like strings and brass and woodwind, any of those other cool elements thrown in, or synth or whatever, um, do you have any kind of general EQ tips for stuff like that, or?
it's always like these days, man. everybody wants to like be John Williams for some reason. I don't know, but it's weird. I guess probably because of Lorna Shore and all these bands. But I'm like, it's not easy, man, because like guitar has it's a super broad, huge spectrum of sound,
Yep.
and same as orchestra, it's like super wide.
Yeah.
So I mean, the sad truth is, well, the harsh truth is like you'll have to do tons and tons of automations, so to make
Mm.
sure that everything will be here and there. You could try to do some stuff that could help. There's this plugin called Track Spacer. I don't know if you know that.
That sounds very familiar.
Wave Factory, and this is very interesting because you can send a side chain of something into something else. Basically, what I mean by that is like you can, for example, put all the orchestra and send it to the guitar, and it
Yeah.
will kind of act as an anti EQ. So all the frequencies of one will just get removed from the other. So it kind of makes space for for parts. So
Okay.
if you want to put few of those across the board, you can always like mute, let's say mute that plugin for certain part that you want to have. Okay, you sidechain the guitar because the orchestra is more important than that part, and you do the opposite for the other part. You can just like sidechain the orchestra on the guitar. So it
Oh
will just
wow.
apply like the entire EQ to make space for whatever you need when you need it.
Right.
You
That
could do,
that is so clever.
yeah. It's
Uh
something that you could do, but other than that, you still need to find like where can I put this overall EQ? Where do I have space?
yeah,
Because
interesting.
it's always like it's always a crazy fight against frequencies because like strings and horns, it's exactly where the guitars are. Exactly. So I'm like, and then on top of that, you have your vocals. I'm like, eesh, good luck.
That's makes it always makes me wonder. And Lorna Shore, Flesh God, Septic Flesh, and Demu, I think are the all equal culprits. And
Yeah, but
and
there's a bunch of great bands too. Like, no, I love. Recently, I did by Shadow of Intent. Obviously, I
yeah.
like them very much. I did a band called Assemble the Chariot. Go check
Okay.
them out. They're orchestral, or it's really well done. And
Hmm.
there's other band I've done, Awaken Providence. That's also like the orchestra, or it's very very well done. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I'll admit I've kind of dabbled with it. I got like a little MIDI keyboard here sitting in front of me, and I mean I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff, especially like Flesh God. But yeah, the one thing I learned from, and I've only done a couple tracks because it's very time consuming, but um, other than using like some presets for EQ plugins on things like the strings and horns or whatever, it's like my God, how do you find how do you make everything fit and then like start throwing in synths or keyboards that literally are the 100% dead on same space as
Yeah.
guitars, and it's just like it makes you wonder how even like Children of Bodom or like Ingve or somebody where they have like keyboards literally shredding along with the guitars. Like how do you mix that? Like
And back in those days, they were lucky because the mastering was not as loud as now.
oh
So
yeah.
they had more space in their mix, so that was easier to make space. But filtering is your friend, man. Filtering,
Mm,
especially for keyboard saturations, will be your friend. But filter, man, sometimes like higher than you might think, just for certain parts. and
gotcha.
then and then you can just bring it back like when it's playing on its own. But yeah, and we need to make some space, so just get that low end in control. you know
Um, kind of switch gears here a second, but still staying in the realm of recording. Um, So I'm 100%, in the box with my recording setup, with the exception of like, like the Kemper, I'll use that for tones or a pedal or something, right? But um, as far as EQs, compressors, limiters, all that other fun stuff, all in the box. Um, there are some guys that are even up to the semi-professional, professional level that stay in the box. Then you got guys that have like mouth-watering collections of outboard gear and, like Joe Baresi, who has looks like a hoarder of cool outboard gear. Um, and you kind of seem like you're somewhere like you've got some gear, but you have a very clean studio. You look like you have just kind of like more the essentials than anything. Would you be completely content in the box? Is there a certain threshold for something to where you feel like you benefit from having like this, whatever, like one particular thing as
It's funny because like I change gear all the time, but and I just bought like new things like recently that I
Mhm.
absolutely love. But I tried once, for nail the mix. I did it all in the box because it was easier, to understand what's happening, and I didn't hate it,
Mhm.
and for the recall capability, it's amazing, but
Sure.
yeah, but I don't think I would be happy. Something would be missing, and the main reason is because like all my gain stages is made with all my gear because I always like I have a new piece of gear, I play with it, and after that I tweak it, and sometimes like I have a lot of gear, but I haven't touched those knobs in like 6 months or but so it's just in settings that I like.
Sure.
So what I do is like I send stuff through this and it's way faster, because I'm
Mm,
like, okay, I know it has to hit that certain amount here, it has to hit like that dB gain reduction here, and I know my gain stages will work. So it's something that it's what I think I could gain beneficial for with the gear is just the speed I could work with. But
interesting.
I am not, I'm never going to say that this sounds better than this. I don't think so. Everything sounds great, and they're like killer producer that can mix in the box, and I'm a bit jealous, to be honest. but, but
Well, no, I mean that's totally valid. At the end of the day, it just, boils down to the same thing as somebody using a modeler versus an amp and pedals, it just all comes down to preference. There's certainly
yeah,
something to be said to having the like tactile response of having all the, physical gear out in front of you versus, clicking through some menus,
right. Who said that once? I believe it was CLA. Chris Lord Alger. He said like, it's fun to have gear because if you're just mixing in the box, it feels like you're a phone operator. You know.
That's a good analogy. I like that. Well, kind of jumping ship here. We'll kind of redirect this kind of a little bit more personal for, towards you. Um, take us back, which I know we're kind of creeping up on time here, so we'll try to cut through this somewhat
Oh,
quick. Take us
yeah.
back to what got you started playing guitar. Like what was the initial inspiration?
Oh my god, I'll be so original once again. I first heard Metallica and I was like, "Wow, this is amazing! What? How can I do? What's that sound? What's going on with this?" And I just like realized it was like electric guitar. So I was obsessed by. I didn't know it was called distortion, but I was
Hmm.
obsessed by that sound. And I was like, I need to have that sound. What is it? And because of that, I just like got my first, guitar with my first pedal was heavy metal. Actually, everybody's crazy about that these days for some reason. But
Yeah.
I don't even know where I put it. I think I like gave it to someone when it was.
Everyone loves that Swedish chainsaw, man.
Yeah, yeah, man. I mean, everybody's crazy about that these days. So I should have kept it, but anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah, listening to Metallica, that was the main reason. I was like, I really need to play guitar because it's that's what's up. It was calling me, I guess. But I'm pretty sure like 90% of all guitar players that like started probably like heard something cool that they like, and which was probably Metallica, and then just wanted to play all those songs, you know.
sure. What was the first Metallica album that had heard?
The first one I've heard was the Black Album, and the first one I bought was Kill 'Em All. And
That's a fair progression.
way better.
Dude, I mean, Kill 'Em All was my favorite for years. Um, but you know, I used to hang out with a lot of like punk and hardcore kids, so I don't know. I guess because it's probably the shittiest sounding one, that's why I liked it. But I don't know. I'd have to say now, eh, probably Ride the Lightning, but I think Master of Puppets sounds the coolest.
Yeah, man. I mean, the first four are untouchable, you know,
Yeah.
but yeah. And then they're a bit strange now, but whatever. They did what they had to do, you know.
Yeah, now they're just kind of chilling, just putting out whatever whenever they
Yeah,
feel like it.
exactly.
Sometimes put out something like Lulu, and you're like, what?
Oh,
That's
well,
interesting.
it is very interesting. Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Do you remember your first guitar by chance?
Oh fuck. Yes, but it was like a mock-up of Rickenbacker, some kind of that
Okay.
makes sense. The bass, the Rickenbacker kind of thing.
Hmm.
But it didn't last long because that was my first guitar. But it kind of had a defect on it,
Yeah.
so we just brought it back to the store, and they didn't had like another one or another replacement. So I just paid an extra difference, and I got a PV guitar, which like a Strat model, you know. So
Yeah.
and I played with that man for forever. I even like went to college with that guitar, you know. And I changed the pickup because they were all like single coil, and I kind of made a like one of those mini humbuckers that fit into one slot, you know.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
I can't remember what it was. I think it was DiMarzio, but I'm not exactly sure. I was too young back then, and I didn't care about these things.
Right.
Yeah,
You're like, can I play distortion with it? Cool.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But yeah, it was that PV guitar. I can't remember the model, but it was like like a fake Strat, basically. You know,
Right. I feel like there's like Predator maybe or something, a PV Predator or something.
something like that. Yeah.
I mean I
So,
still see them pop up here and there.
no Bandy 112, you know.
What is it?
And I had like the PV amp, like the Bandy.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, people actually really like collecting those things now. I
I
don't.
had. It was cool, man. The tone was good, and I had this Zoom. This is after my heavy metal. I
Yeah.
had Zoom multi effect. You know,
Oh yeah. I
that was,
I'd never had that, but I had tons of buddies that did. And they would like run them into the front end of whatever practice amp. Yeah, it was a sort of like a rite of passage, I think.
it was so wrong, man. It was so wrong. But back in those days, I didn't understand that amps I have return. You know, that could be better. If you connect it in the return, it's way better than just putting in front on the clean channel.
Yeah, yeah. I not that I knew any better, but I didn't I didn't do the like the budget processor into the budget practice amp. I did have it was a cheaper Digitech distortion, a Metal Master or something like that.
Yeah,
And I like ran that into the front of like one of those little Fender, the hell were they? It was like the really cheap solid
like
state Fender that came in those like practice packs. And I
a
don't know.
Squire amp. No, I do have one Squire amp at the studio, like those like super mini.
Yeah, yeah, they sound god awful. Um, like I still have one practice amp in our living room, like one of the little Boss katanas. That thing sounds great for like a little cheap amp, you know? But boy, back in the day, we were really roughing it.
Yeah, that's not what it is right now. Those rolling cubes, they sound decent, man.
Yeah, those are great. And the Yamahas, those like little tan Yamaha ones.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're called. Those are good. Um, Kids these days don't know how good they have it. Uh, or just, plug into your phone or iPad or
Yeah, man.
something.
Amplitude in your phone and all that
Yeah,
stuff. It's crazy.
it's nuts. Um, so what kind of led you into extreme guitar? Because I've found like some like old, guitar playthrough videos of you and stuff, and you have a very you're very adept at this very technical and very dissonant, crazy, sporadic kind of style. Um, so what was the whole death metal journey like for you, or is it just sort of in the water in Canada that everybody's good at writing really crazy dissonant music?
It's funny that you mentioned this because I think it's a Montreal thing, man.
Yeah.
Honestly, honestly, like it's weird because like we're all we were all jamming, at the same place in the same basement, no, not basement, sorry, like the same building,
Hmm.
which a lot of bands are still jamming there. But all of us, like Cryptopsy, Neuraxis, Gorguts, Ion Dissonance, Despise Icons, so everybody. So you just end up like
Wow.
beneath the pictures. You just end up like knowing everybody, and sometimes it's like you just walk in the hallways and just like peep your ears and like
Yeah.
that's fucking cool, dude. What's that? And it just kind of inspires you also to do something like that.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. I guess it's just like in 2000 or even like before that, like Montreal was really a really crazy scene for extreme music. So
You
I
don't say.
just have the feeling this is how it was, man. It's just we just it's cold, it's not nice, it's cold and it's super hot too, and it's just extreme, like the weather is extreme here, so I guess this is it shows in our music.
Right. Yeah, no, it's there's definitely a lineage there, no doubt about it. And I think we're all pretty well of it. It's like if you hear a band is if you just hear a death metal band is from Canada, like just in general, like Quebec or Montreal or something, you're like, okay, this is gonna be insane. And it's just gonna be like tritones and like crazy, I don't know, double harmonic stuff like flying at you at like 280 BPM or something.
Yeah, but the first time I heard "I Am This and This," I was floored. I was totally like jawed. I was like, "What's going on? What's that thing?" And I was really, and at first time I heard Beneath the Massacre too, I was like, "What the fuck is going on? What's that? What's that thing? How can you play that fast and all that stuff?" And also there's like those bands like I don't know if you know Martyr from
Yeah.
like Dan plays in Voivod now. Like what a insane player! It's just
Oh my
insane.
God.
I'm telling you, he shreds like yeah, you have no idea, man. And I'm like that just seeing these guys like and also competing with these guys because you're playing local shows with these guys all the time. Well, you need to step up your game because they
Yeah.
will. If you don't do it, then they totally will.
Oh, for sure. That's funny you mentioned Dan, because where they just recently announced like he's playing with Forbidden now.
Yeah, yeah. You
Um,
just did a couple of shows, I believe, with them or some festival run. I'm not sure exactly.
Something like that. He's at least like I don't know. I don't remember if he's like full time or just touring with them live now, but I saw that and then I was on like for a week straight on a Voivod kick and like another just insane alien ass band.
Yeah, you see, they kind of started the thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like in Montreal, they started the thing. They were a bit further north, but still, we were for some reason they just like inspired us all.
Well, man, I'm sure I could come up with a million more questions to pick your brain about, but just for consideration of time, I got just one last question I'll ask you and I'll let you go here.
No
Um,
problem.
we always like to end these with, what is your Mount Rushmore or like top four, death metal bands and or albums, whichever's easier to do on the spot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny because I don't listen to. Oh, actually, I mean, I'll have to say "None So Vile." Actually, I listened to that album so many times in my life that I really enjoy it. It's groovy, it's mean, it's great.
Sure.
That I gotta say, Tomb of the Mutilated. Which is another classic, but it was pretty good. Morbid Angel Domination was a big one for me, and Individual Thought Pattern from Death. That was another really good for a big one for me.
Fuck yeah. Killer list. All albums I love too. So
They're
with that,
classic.
oh yeah. Well, man, before we hop off here, is there anything you want to plug real quick before we jump off?
Oh, I don't know. Come see our tour with Carnifex in October. If it's not, I don't know if it's aired.
Fuck yeah. All right, man. Well, this has been great. Christian, thank you so much. Thank you everybody tuning in to watch this. Um, follow Cryptopsy, follow Christian on social media. Uh, always producing killer, awesome metal bands coming through, new and old.
Yeah,
And yeah, be sure to go check out their tour coming this October. You said is when the tour starts.
yeah, exactly.
Killer.
That'd be
All right.
killer. Like Organectomy, Mental Cruelty, and Carnifex. So it's gonna be really a good one.
Hell yeah. Car Man, Carnifex has been killing the last couple albums too.
Yeah.
But all right. Thank you guys. We'll see you next time.
Take
Peace.
care.